I think one of my failures from that period was I got a 2-2 in my mathematics degree, and I'd always been a higher achiever, and I struggled with maths at degree level. I was flying through it at GCSE A levels. I did all these maths awards that were set by, I think, Warwick or Leeds University. So I was like a mathlete. I would get in the top 2% of the country. I had like a bronze, a gold, and a silver. And I just really struggled at degree level maths, and it felt like it was regurgitating it. I was just regurgitating proofs and just like some of the stuff that we taught. It's not like I was, using algebra way to find X, and I love that. So I got a 2-2 in my mathematics degree, and it meant that the internship that I did with Deloitte, I'd got a graduate job offer lined up with them. And at that time, the Big Four had a minimum criteria of a 2-1 or above. Years later, like 4 to 6 years later, they changed the rules. But at that time, when I graduated in 2009, it just meant, that they weren't having it and they weren't taking me on. And that's when I kind of that was really like quite upsetting, because at every point in my life there'd always been a plan, like, okay, you do school, you do A levels, you do university, and whilst I was at university I'd put the things in place, done the internship, got the graduate job lined up, and that's the thing that I was going to do for at least the next 3 years, because you have to qualify as an accountant, or with the tax exams that they give you that you do, and then it was kind of like I felt really lost. That, okay, now what do? I can't apply for this job, I can't do that. I remember applying to loads of jobs with not the Big Four, but then the next set of accountancy firms, and just getting rejected because they wanted a 2-1. And so I ended up getting a job which was paying 20 grand a year, so it was a bit of a hit from the 28 that I would have been starting on. And Deloitte also offered you a £7,000 interest-free loan, and you could go travelling and you could take a sabbatical. And I was so adamant I wanted to do this. Just had this travelling bug because of what my parents, taking me on holidays. And so really wanted to travel, and didn't end up getting Deloitte, and so couldn't take that loan. But I had 10 grand saved up by the time I'd graduated from uni. So I just decided to do it on my own. The job that I was doing, I did that for 3-4 months, and then in January 2010, I went on my world tour. I came back for little bits and bobs. I had such a brilliant time. Met friends that I'm still in touch with. Lived with a Spanish family who are still a big part of my life.
Whereabouts did you go? Spain?
I went to Seville for 2 months because I got onto I don't think they do it anymore, but the EU was doing these Leonardo da Vinci internships where they fully fund you for 10 weeks to live and have a language course, and then you have like a work experience. So I chose Seville. I really wanted Spain because I was obsessed with wanting to learn Spanish, and they did it the other way, like Spanish, Italians and Europeans could come to the UK. So I did that, lived in Seville for 2 months because it was only like 10 weeks, had a bunch of friends come visit me, and then I found like a language assistant role. Basically, I was a glorified au pair, but I was living with a Spanish family because my Dutch friend who had lived with a French family had said, Davinder, you'll really learn Spanish when you live with a family. You'll be forced to. They won't speak your language, and so you're going to have to speak theirs. So I got paired up with this Spanish family in the north, in a tiny little city called Tudela. I thought I was going to Toledo. And Toledo was like just outside of Madrid. And I was like, oh, great, I'm going to this like medieval city. Went to the north and I'm like, this is really cold. This isn't Spain. I've gone from the south all the way to the north. But honestly, I had the most brilliant time. The Spanish family that I lived with, they're a big part of my life now. I've got my Spanish brother and Spanish sister that are 10, 11 years younger than me. And I love hanging out with them. And
So what happened next after that?
So I went to New York. So I got onto a graduate program to go to New York for a year. And I then worked for 2 investment banks there. And so kind of had to do a little bit of a 90-degree angle, I say, from I wouldn't say 180 because it was still moving, but just not, forward in the direction that I thought it was going to be. So went to New York, and from the work experience of working at 2 investment banks, when I came back to London, I had like a 6-month role, contracting at I can't even remember what it is now, like a management company. And then I got the job at HSBC, which is where I stayed for like nearly 5 years, and then I was a trader with them. But it was off the back of my work experience in New York, working at 2 investment banks.
So you've gone full circle really now, haven't you?
And it's so funny. I felt like a real failure when I had that Deloitte job taken away from me. But in those 3 years, I had so much more life experience. I learned another language, which I still speak now. I can switch it on and off, like speaking Spanish. And I learned another language. I ended up being adopted into a Spanish family.
Yeah.
You know, my Spanish mum has come to India with me and my grandparents and has come to my family weddings and has come and stayed in London. And so they're a really big part of my life. And yeah, I just got more valuable experiences. And then the job that the salary that I started on at HSBC was higher than the salary I would have started on post graduating with the tax qualifications that you get. So I was like, I lucked out. This actually ended up, being a little bit better.
And again, I think that's amazing that you've gone full circle and you ended up creating your own success. What would you say has been your biggest struggle to date?
To date, probably like the own demons that you have in your head, or that have, say, like hindered me within business or in relationships.
What do you mean by that?
So I guess I only recently have discovered therapy in the past 2.5 years. And the more that I become like self-aware and I guess compassionate and kind and listening and really listening to people, I think I could have done with these skills 10 years ago. And like actually listening to people and hearing their pain and, like just forming those deep relationships. And so I guess my biggest struggle has been the feelings around self-worth and the bouts of depression I've had when I was 16 and then later when I was like 32.
What happened 10 years ago?
Nothing that happened per se 10 years ago, but I wish I'd had the awareness I have now 10 years ago. So if this is the journey that I'm on, in 10 years' time, whichever space I'm in, would I have been there earlier if I had discovered, how to, manage my emotions, not get triggered, be kinder and nicer and create space and let people listen rather than being a bit of a Rottweiler.
You spoke about depression. Have you ever been through that?
Yes. So I feel like I'm going to start welling up.
Fine, take your time. Take your time.